Hello, Tom Levecki here with the latest edition of the New Theory Podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, probably advice that I probably should listen to many times over. Robert Towle. Towle, right? I said it right? Don't
Towle, but you got
sorry,
it
Towle.
close. You got
Almost
close.
Towle, as you just told me a second earlier, but nevertheless, we got it. Author of Don't Be Dumb, a leadership playbook to help be smarter, overcome obstacles, and rise rapidly in challenging times, which we are indeed in. Robert, welcome to New Theory Podcast. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing well, Tom. Thank you for having me. Really glad to be here.
It's my pleasure. Okay, we're gonna jump right in. So generally, we mess up in life, right? And a lot of the mistakes are dumb. Do we need to make these mistakes, or we can maybe read your book and prevent them?
I think it's a mixture of both, Tom. I think there's a level of learning that comes from making mistakes, as long as you don't wallow in them and you have a recovery strategy of how you move forward and look forward and don't look backwards. But then I think there's also some you can just avoid by good planning and thinking ahead. And it's probably a mix of both. And what I hope to do with the book is there's elements of mistakes I've made, because even though I got the advice at a young age from my father, don't be dumb, I've made lots and lots of mistakes. So if me having the hand on the hot stove and making mistakes and learning from it, if I can share that learning with other people and they make different mistakes or don't make the same ones I've made, that'd be a good thing.
What's the dumbest mistake and how did you recover?
Mm. Well, list is too long, Tom, honestly. But one that I made that nearly destroyed a project I was working on
Okay.
was we had a conference call that we were using the client's conference call infrastructure on.
Yeah.
And it was a kickoff call for hundreds of people around the world.
No.
After 4 years of trying to win the work, and we used their conference call system for this kickoff call. And their conference call system introduced everyone that joined, and they joined on a timely basis. So it was a 30-minute window, and it was beep, Sally's joining, beep, Joe's joining, beep, for the first 15 minutes of the call. Got about 10 minutes of clear where I could speak without being interrupted, and then everybody started leaving for the final 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes.
Did you lose
Beep,
that contract?
Sally's. We did not, but I'll tell you why we didn't. I was sure. I was over in the UK, and it was done. I was scrambling while I was on the call, trying to get my IT person to fix the introduction thing to turn it off, but it wasn't our system. And sat there in a pretty good panic for about 2 or 3 minutes.
Wow.
And I realized, and this goes back to advice early on, is you got to own it. I couldn't play the victim.
Yeah.
I had to own it. And I went down the hallway and said, look, this just happened. It went really, really bad. My proposal is we hold another session on our system, 2 sessions tomorrow, to make up for it. And we can get on with it, and we can solve it. I didn't blame them for their system and what their system did. I took complete ownership of it myself, where it was tempting to really point fingers because it wasn't our system, but I took ownership of it, and we saved it, and it turned into like a 2-year contract.
Oh, wow.
And we kept it. But I thought we were going to get shipped back to the US without even them paying for the plane tickets home. I swear. Wow. It was over. That project was done.
So again, like I like how you dummy it down. Like, don't be dumb, keep it simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the things though I always worry about when I make a mistake is sometimes I have an agency, right? And even as a podcaster, in a weird sort of way, when you're a host or have a client, even you're in a subordinate position. So what is your advice when you make up a mistake and you F up in a subordinate position where it could have really super costly results?
Well, I think own it. I mean, you take it simple, own it, don't point the finger, and come up with a recovery strategy. And ideally, you think about it beforehand. Here's plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, that you can then pick from them and go, okay, this is what went sideways on me. I need to go to plan E. Here's how we're going to do it. And that way you save time. You don't sit there and wallow in it. You don't 2 days to recover. You look forward, and you don't beat yourself up over making a mistake. You just got to own it and move forward. And most of the time that'll work, and even in a subordinate position. But I'll tell you what won't work is when you're in a subordinate position and you start pointing the finger at other people. I wasn't going to point the finger at my team, even though I was frustrated that they couldn't find a way to solve it. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to point the finger at the client and the people that said we needed to use their system. I wasn't going there. And if I'd gone there, I think we would have been done.
So sometimes our there's many things that hold us back from being high performance individuals in our career and relationships, etc. What is your advice to somebody who keeps committing the same mistake over and over?
Um, I think they need to sit down and understand the pattern that's emerging of what's the pattern of that mistake and try to get at the root cause of why is it happening.
Good point.
Because I think I've seen it. I've got someone I'm dealing with now, consistent over promiser and under deliverer. Consistently, and it's like, just stop. I take it the other extreme, and I'm on a conference call with something, and I say I'll get this back to you within an hour, knowing it's a 5-minute task. Most of the time, I can turn it around in 5 minutes and get it right back to somebody.
I gotta be candid. I would give you a repeatable mistake I make is I try to over deliver on value, right? Especially with clients, right? But what may happen is we may add in a value add, a free website, something worth thousands, right?
Yes.
But then we over promise, like on the deliverable, meaning here's a new website. It's on us. It's worth $3,000. Everybody's happy, right? But then, oh, we'll get it done in like 2 weeks. Now, when it's done in 4 weeks, they're complaining, and it's like a cost for you. And it's, whoa, wait a second. So I think you're right. You not only have to if you're gonna, you got to under promise, over deliver, but you also even need to be realistic when you set, expectations.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in the subordinate position.
Right.
Who can directly benefit from your book? Is it people in a leadership position? Is it, because everybody says everybody, and everybody probably can, but who can really order this book today in Barnes and Noble and Amazon and get more bang for your buck?
I think you end up with entrepreneurs that are starting out, particularly early in their careers as an entrepreneur.
Agreed.
Can really benefit from it. I also think people in their early stages of their career can get the most out of it, because here I am, and I heard somebody the other day say they had 51 years of experience, and I went, okay, does that mean that every time you work more than 8 hours, you count another day, or how does that? I was looking at them and going, well, you're not 85, so how does this work? But I've had a lot of experience. I've been working since I was 21 professionally, and working, mowing lawns and doing things like that since I was 12. So if all these folks that are in their 20s can benefit from that experience with nuggets and take some ideas and prevent mistakes and learn how to move forward in their organization, I think they get a lot out of it.
I always say, unfortunately, I would rather take go to the store, buy a $350,000 Ferrari, don't even drive it, take it and push it in to the Hudson River, then make the mistakes I made. Because that's probably, if I had to aggregate the financial loss and or opportunity cost, that's what I'm looking at. How do we, aside from reading your book, how do we mitigate the dummy tax?
I think you always have to look at elements of I'm trying to think of elements from the book that I can share. I have a section that talks about chaff and people blowing chaff, which I don't know whether you know the term, but I was raised in a military family. So blowing chaff is basically if somebody's in an airplane, in a fighter aircraft, and somebody's locking radar on them, they blow off this thing called chaff, which is like tinfoil, which will take the radar and the missiles toward the tinfoil versus the airplane. And people have a tendency to virtually blow chaff. So when you're on something, you're working on something, and you're on it. You're going to solve this problem. You're going to fix this, but you're holding somebody accountable. And suddenly, poof, off they go, and they'll make a turn someplace else and get away while you're trying to solve this problem because they blew chaff. So learning to recognize it and go, no, that's a diversionary tactic, essentially. That they're trying to keep me from, I'm on the hunt, I'm getting something done here. They're trying to divert attention, and learning to recognize that really helps you in business of what's going on.
Interesting. And then you dealt with a lot of adversity yourself. It says here you had a surgery to remove a brain tumor.
I did. I had in 2018, didn't know it was there, had technically no signs of it beforehand, and had a seizure on the 1st of March. And within a couple hours, had to be a hospital, and they said, we can't treat you here because you have a brain tumor, and went to a bigger, better hospital an hour or so away. And it was the size of a small apple in my frontal lobe that had been growing for 20 to 30 years. I know when it started. It started about 1990.
And, that's not like an easy to overcome situation. So like when you got through the medical portion and got healthy again, how did you recover, career wise and everything else?
Well, here's the, I don't toss this term around lightly, because I felt so much better having not knowing that I was sick.
Yeah.
When I woke up from the surgery, I didn't look better. Trust me, Tom, I didn't look better.
Yeah.
But I felt so much better. My eyesight improved, my hearing improved, my hand-eye coordination. I'm ambidextrous now. It's crazy how much better I felt. No rehab, no medicine, no radiation, a few pain pills. I was out of the hospital within like 6 days. Came back to the house and was playing guitar again the minute I walked in. And I was back on the job part-time within a week.
Jesus.
And then I was on the road. I was in California filling in for a role in a consulting assignment within a month after the surgery. As soon as they gave clearance to fly, I was on the road. I still didn't look real good, but stitches were out and so forth. But the docs they couldn't explain it. They couldn't explain why it went so well. They got it all. I went in for the follow-up appointment 2 weeks later with the doctor, and they asked me, who dressed you? And I'm like, who do you mean who dressed me? I dressed myself in the hospital.
Wow.
What do you mean who dressed me? But they're just all stunned.
That's amazing. Now, how do you get that new lease on life without having that like huge teachable moment?
That's an interesting question. I think you really, if you can have the mindset that every day is a gift, that nobody's promised anything, Tom. And if you can somehow get that mindset through of what am I going to do today to get through? What am I doing this week? That's the most important, not the most urgent, but the most important aspect, to steal from Stephen Covey's way of doing things. And I've even taken to planning that way. I've used it periodically, but I've gone back to using like the week planner versus the day planner of what are my roles and my goals and what's the most important, not the most urgent, because we can always get caught up in the fires. And if you can plan that way, you're going to be better off. And it woke me up to some things. It woke me up to work-life balance. I've still got my cell phone sitting right over here lurking. There was a phone call that came in. But I'm a whole lot better than I was about it, Tom. It never left my hand. When I woke up from the first seizure, I walked out of the apartment with the cell phone in my hand to the ambulance. There's something a little wrong with that. That's a little over focused on the work element of things.
And did you balance it out better post the event?
I am better. Sometimes I even miss phone calls now. So it's and return them, which I've trained myself for years to never do, ever miss a call.
Now I still need to read the book because again the way the timing worked. But what I gathered from the book, and I did just do a little research, a little 1-year-old contributing to the podcast.
Awesome.
I understand it's a really practical guide. It's kind of a little bit more no nonsense. and that kind of stuff. So before we, conclude, I want to set up what expectations have for the reader, and then why it's important to get this book because of that practical execution aspect.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Tom, is that I'm a pretty to the point, practical type of guy, but I wove together stories that were it's real life experiences, my life, some family history stories in it too, from things like my grandfather being a small business owner and things I learned from him, for example. But I tried to tie it into different chapters, whether it's HR related or recovering strategies or looking forward, and then have steps at the end of every chapter of things you can do to avoid these same type of problems or things you can do. I even have a whole section called Eliminate Stupid, which stands for slow, tedious, unproductive, inefficient, and duplicative, and a program in the appendix of showing you how to do that in the workplace, of how you can eliminate stupid, not being people, but things that just don't make any sense. And have had great success with that in the workplace and in projects of making things better.
That's awesome.
So
I'm going to put a link below. Usually Amazon is a go-to. So
yeah,
I'll put
Amazon's
a
good.
link to the Amazon link. Sorry. And
That's all right.
How can we find you?
If you look under my name, Towle,
Yeah.
Don't Be Dumb on Amazon, it'll be there. It's available in the ebook version and hardcover and paperback. Getting some good reviews starting out, which is nice. We launched officially last Thursday on the 14th of October, and already have sold a few, and but gotten some good reviews so far, including some places around the world too. So you see in Amazon, you're seeing 8 or 9 good reviews, and it meant a lot that I also had one private one come from a former boss that actually is in the book under a different name.
Oh, wow.
And he came back and said, "Wow, you've got me beat on some things," and he wouldn't disagree with a thing I said in the whole book.
That's amazing.
And this is somebody that taught me so much years ago.
Wow.
And that meant a lot to get that at like 1 a.m. He downloaded it and read it straight for 5 hours and then wrote me the email at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I'm happy that you not only survived the 2018 incident, but you strived. Everybody always says they have a book in them. You created the book. It's Don't Be Dumb. I'll put a link below. And Robert, thank you so much for being on the New Theory podcast.
Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate it. It was a good conversation.
My pleasure.